In a remote Alaskan village, nestled at the edge of a vast snow-dusted wilderness, there lived an elderly woman named Agnes. She was alone, her family long gone, buried beneath the frozen earth years ago. Agnes kept a modest homestead, chickens, a small garden in the summer, and a sturdy cabin she'd inherited from her parents. She lived off a meager pension, her days quiet and solitary. Humans have long welcomed animals into their lives for companionship and protection. But sometimes, it's the wild creatures that unexpectedly become their truest allies. One crisp autumn day, a group of weary hunters trudged past her cabin. In these isolated parts, it was custom to offer strangers a warm drink or a place to rest, no questions asked, often for a small tael or coin in return. The men, exhausted from days in the forest, knocked on Agnes' door, the last house before the wild took over. They carried with them a modest haul from their hunt, including 3 tiny wolf pups, orphaned after their mother had met her end. The hunters stayed the night, sipping tea by Agnes' fire. And when dawn broke, they each took a pup, leaving the smallest and weakest one behind on her porch as they set off. The little creature, shivering in the morning frost, looked more like a lost mutt than a fierce predator. Agnes, peering out her window, assumed some village child had abandoned a stray. She waited for an owner to claim it, but no one came, so the pup stayed. Wolves in these parts weren't massive beasts, and feeding it proved no harder than sustaining a regular yard dog. She named him Whisper, for he didn't bark, rarely growled low, or let out more than a soft, eerie howl now and then. Whisper grew up fast. In summer, he roamed her yard, chasing after her chickens when she wasn't looking, though he'd slink back with a guilty droop of his ears if she caught him mid-mischief. He adored Agnes, obeying her gentle commands. And in winter, he'd curl up inside by the hearth, his thick fur a comfort against the biting cold. Despite his wild blood, he was her shadow, her quiet guardian. Then whispers began to ripple through the village. Escaped convicts were prowling the nearby taiga, desperate and dangerous. Doors were bolted, windows barred, but Agnes, living on the outskirts, either didn't hear the rumors or paid them no mind. One stormy evening, as snow swirled outside, a sharp knock rattled her door. Trusting and unworldly, she opened it to 3 ragged men, strangers with hard eyes. They'd come scavenging for food, clothes, anything to keep them going, and they figured an old woman alone wouldn't put up a fight. They planned to leave no trace, but they hadn't counted on Whisper. He'd been dozing in the corner, and noticed until the tension snapped him awake. Now he was no longer the playful pup, but a full-grown wolf, hackles raised, teeth bared in a snarl that vibrated through the cabin. He planted himself between Agnes and the intruders, a wall of fur and fury. One of the men panicked, pulled a knife, and lunged, slicing Whisper's flank. The wolf yelped but didn't falter. Instead, he leapt, jaws snapping, eyes wild with primal rage. The men froze, realizing they faced not a pet, but a beast forged by the wilderness. They bolted, stumbling into the night. Their escape was short-lived. The village dogs, aroused by the commotion, erupted into a cacophony of howls and barks, alerting the townsfolk. Men poured from their homes, armed with rifles, axes, and whatever else they could grab. 3 weakened fugitives stood no chance against a mob of rugged Alaskans fueled by anger and protectiveness. The convicts were cornered like prey, hauled off by the authorities who arrived soon after. Whisper survived his wound, though he limped for a while. From then on, he grew warier, his amber eyes tracking every shadow that crossed Agnes' land. But with her, he remained tender, loyal to wild heart, bound to the old woman who'd taken him in. Together they weathered the seasons, an unlikely pair, proving that even in the harshest places, friendship can bloom where it's least expected.